Hello and welcome to yet another adrenaline shot, a short, sharp injection of some fun and interesting stuff for your business. And today I've got a special guest, Anne-Marie Cross, with me. Good morning, Anne-Marie.
Good morning.
Good to see you. Great. Thank you. And Anne-Marie is going to talk to us today about how you can stand out, be heard, and be an influential voice in your business with a podcast. Something that I'm quite interested in as well. So I'm looking forward to that, Anne-Marie. Let me introduce you to everyone so that people know what your background is, and then we'll get started on our questions. So Anne-Marie Cross began podcasting in 2008 to be the voice of inspiration and hope amongst the deluge of doom and gloom stories being portrayed across all traditional media channels after the global financial crisis devastated families worldwide. Isn't that the truth? And it hasn't changed any since then. 9 years on, now dubbed the podcasting queen by her guests, clients and colleagues, Anne-Marie continues to be the voice of inspiration in her own award-winning business and leadership-focused podcasts. And the podcast she hosts and produces for her clients through her media company, the Ambitious Entrepreneur Podcast Network. So let me welcome Anne-Marie to the show. I'm going to start my clock, Anne-Marie. You know, you've got 5 minutes, and we'll see how we go. So I guess, you know, we both know it's becoming way more difficult for businesses to get any cut through in the noise, the clutter and everything else that's in the online world, whether it's social media or blogs or videos and now podcasting. So is this just another bright, shiny object?
Yeah, great question. How we're using this in our business is not to the neglect of all the other ways, video, they're all fantastic. But what we're finding with podcasting that's quite different is that whilst the others like video, short and sharp, 2 minutes, no longer than that, if we're then integrating and saying to people, if you want to learn more and dive deeper into that topic, go and subscribe to my podcast. Now, typically our podcasts are between 20 to 30 minutes. Some I know have been produced that have been over an hour, but it gives you a longer time frame. And as we know, when we're speaking to someone and sharing our knowledge and wisdom and insights, that's of value. If we get to spend 20 or 30 minutes with someone on a weekly, fortnightly, monthly basis, that's really speaking into their lives and it's building know, like and trust. And, you know, traditional media are scrambling to find how can we tap into this. The businesses today that are using podcasts as a way to leverage to know, like and trust engagement are finding an incredible difference in their business and the leads and clients.
Wow. And because that's interesting, you know, because the statistics, correct me if I'm wrong, are that most people will barely watch a video for a minute. And yet you're saying that they'll sit there and they'll listen to a podcast for 20, 30 minutes.
Exactly. Where people are listening to podcasts, it's called a secondary activity. So studies from the US show that people are using or listening to them at home whilst they're traveling in the car or even doing a secondary activity like, housework. I mean, I've got a colleague now who mows the lawn or even when he's in a bath, which was like too much information for me. But anyway, he said, I listen to podcasts then as a way to professional development. And he said 40 minutes is a great time for him. That's how people are listening and consuming that content.
Right. So that sort of answers my question, because one of my questions was, you know, why would businesses use it? And how does it differ from video? But I think you basically answered that. So if you were advising businesses about the use of podcasts, how would you say that they would use it to build that influential voice that you talk about in conjunction with what they're already doing online?
Yeah, that's a great question, because I think that traditional ways of marketing and storytelling, if you will, have changed. So what I'm encouraging businesses to do is to look at what's been going on in their marketplace. What rules have they changed? What rules have they challenged? How are they doing differently to enable their clients to get faster results, quicker results, streamlined results? And if you can share that within a storytelling platform, which is, of course, the podcast, that is when people are going to be interested to listen, because you know exactly what they're struggling with and sharing information that's going to be valuable. You know, gone are the days where we try and hide our knowledge and expertise behind only if someone, you know, pays for that. But if you provide incredible value up front within a podcast, you're building know, like and trust. And guess guess who's going to be top of mind when your ideal client is ready to say yes. We're also finding that it's really helpful too for retention of clients. How many times do clients not realise the immense services and products that we offer, particularly if you look at professional services like accountants. Accountants will only see some clients once a year, but if they've got a regular podcast which shares stories, things that are happening in the industry, and you can use this across any industry, and your clients who are already working with you, perhaps on a lower package, will hear that, and guess who they're going to then consider if they're then ready to make that decision. And often clients don't know what they don't yet know, so it's a great way to also educate them as well.
Yeah. What sort of specific industries or companies would podcasting work for?
I've worked with particularly or specifically service-based, so they're people that are sharing knowledge. But just to give you an idea, startup companies in the share space, lawyer, so family law, fintech, so financial technology, accounting, media, even, other people who are traditionally using media and press releases are now using podcasts. Anyone who's got expertise and a voice to share, a message to share, a podcast when created in the right way is really going to make an incredible impact as far as cutting through and building that engagement.
Yeah. And so I guess that takes us to, you said doing it in the right way. And in my experience, businesses sort of stumble with this when it's new technology. I'm just going to manage this phone because any minute now your 5 minutes is up. But this is a part that I really want people to hear about. So I'm just going to cancel that before we get to the ding-dong, ding-dong. I don't know that it's procrastination, but I think there's that technology barrier that makes people feel like, well, I don't know how to do a podcast, so therefore it's all too hard. What would I speak about? How would I structure a story? What can you do? I know you've actually developed some kind of training, and maybe you can give us a rundown on what people have to set up in the way of technology, and then where they can access some training so they could do this if that's what they're interested in doing.
Yeah, absolutely. When I say it's very simple, the technology that I use today is low cost, if not no cost. The editing software that I use, I'm not an audio technician by any means. These things that we carry around, these smartphones, they come with apps where we can record our voice. But I think this is where I like to focus, is not for people to get stuck on the technology if that is a barrier, because that can get sorted out. What's really important, and I say you must define your message before you start worrying about the make or model of your microphone, because even if you do stumble a little bit with technology, you can hire that out or outsource that. But it's a message that's going to make a difference, because if you imagine that you've got a series of podcasts that share your message, it's out there 24/7, 365 days a year. You've got a compelling call to action which gets people off that podcast onto your list, and now within your nurturing process, a lot of us now have newsletters, we know how valuable that is, that continues to work behind the scenes, so that when people finally pick up the phone and say, we need to talk, they've already experienced your message, they already know, like and trust you, they're already resonating with your message and know that you can support them. That's really what I like to encourage people to focus on, because that's what they're struggling with. And your ideal clients, that's what I say to people, your ideal clients are struggling with something, you've got the ability to support them. So don't let technology be something that, that frightens you. And you can then, we've got fantastic hosts like SoundCloud, where you can upload your audio to, and again, that's a, simple platform, low cost and no cost options there as well. That's something that I often suggest to get people started.
So where can they access your training if you've got that available for them?
Yeah, absolutely. So what I've also included in this is also to the reasons why and how you can use that, when you're looking at different demographics of your consumers, as well as my workflow, exactly what I do to start producing a podcast right through to the end production, editing tools, workflow and all that. AnneMarieCross.com/mini training. So AnneMarieCross.com/mini training. And you've got access to the training as well as the checklists and the templates that I've created.
That's fantastic. And I like a shameless plug there. That's always really good. But, it's valuable. And as you say, that, these days everyone is sharing content freely, whereas we used to be so protective of our content in the past. And now it's a case of give as much away as you possibly can. People still want to do business with you because you're showing them that you've got some expertise in that area. And I don't think it would matter what it was, whether it was, I was speaking to someone yesterday who prunes trees for a living. how do you go about pruning a tree? You could make a podcast on that. Someone would
Oh,
probably
absolutely.
be really interested in what you're doing there.
There are podcasts about knitting, even hobby podcasts. And that's what's really exciting. We know the concept as business owners of niching and how important that is. Here's a podcast about niching.
Yeah.
There was a podcast, I had someone come up to me at an expo, said, we sell Himalayan salt lamps. Could we podcast about that? So I, had a look on iTunes, the Himalayan Salt podcast. That's because the Himalayan salt is a product that helps people who are struggling with their health. Now, they don't know yet what they don't know. Now, imagine if you had a really great series which identified the issues, how the salt lamps are being used and how you can use that. Now, I bet if your ideal client listens to that, guess what they're going to then invest in? Maybe a smaller one, but before long, when it works,
that's it.
They'll be singing praises. They become your advocates then,
That's right. Yeah, they do. And I can see, Anne-Marie, that we might have to do another subsequent interview about how do you market yourself? You've got your podcasts, and now how do you actually get people interested in listening to them? So I'd love to invite you back another time to do that, if that's okay with you. And I would really love to thank you for this morning's call. It's great. Thank you very, very much.
My pleasure.